So I want to take a minute to point out the way that they're doing the story here in No Man's Sky, because this is something where, for better or for worse, you have to be able to appreciate this type of storytelling if you're going to be able to get the most out of No Man's Sky. Essentially, everything is done through this sort of, I would say that more than anything else, this could be described as your environmental storytelling. There's no voiceovers, there's no narration. It's just you reading things from devices that you find. There are quests in a sense. There are NPCs who give you missions. Like we have a mission from an entity called Apollo, who showed up on our holo screen a little bit ago, who sent us to this direction. So there is an RPG element of storytelling here at play, but it's not going to be the same as, say, if you're playing The Witcher 3 or if you're coming over from other RPG heavy games. I know we've been talking a lot about Starfield recently because I most recently played that compared to this, but we can also find, like, I think that this takes it a step further than what Enshrouded does, because Enshrouded only gives you environmental storytelling. It's just stuff you find in the world, notes that are left behind, and then you're sort of left to figure out the story as it goes along. Like in this case, we're investigating something which is telling us a little bit more about the race of aliens that lived here. I know some people don't care for this presentation style of storytelling. I think it just depend on what you prefer. Somebody just jumped in. Hopefully it wasn't bad, guys. I think we're good. Let's shine a light on this. It's a small hairy creature, shaking and afraid, and it cries out. The animal appears to have lived here for quite some time. There's a nest in the corner with vestiges of food upon a small dish, even a few clumsy toys and trinkets. The animal seems to have been a companion to the Korvax. My scanner tells me that the creature is gravely ill, and it will die no matter what intervention occurs. Well, I'm going to go ahead and feed it, make it feel better. Give it 15 carbon. Now that part of that is predicated on me having carbon in my inventory to be able to do that. Also, in order to repair this Sentinel machine in the first place, we had to have items in our inventory to repair it. So it's like a weird hybrid version of crafting survival storytelling here. So I feed the creature. It nervously takes the carbon and begins to eat, but a few minutes later it violently coughs up much of its meal, only to try to continue the process, shivering with every mouthful. I move on from the factory complex, leaving the animal to its fate. So I had an option to either euthanize it or move on, and I left some nanites there. And we've also triggered the Sentinels. So you'll notice in the top right it says the Sentinels are searching for me because we messed around with one of their devices here. Now at this point I have an option in terms of I could duck out and get into combat with them like that, or I could choose to just wait for that timer to go down because I'm hidden inside at this point and they will eventually go away. And we can get in our ship, go back into space. We're almost there. Alright, we're good. See, they're still outside, but they no longer want to eat me. My ship is just up the horizon. Let's go ahead and summon it down here. We're going to head up. Now the communications button here, the Starship Communicator, is generally, I've never seen it be enabled when you're on a planet. So as far as what you're finding on planets, it's just going to be the NPCs that you find and the locations that you discover, which have clues that are left behind, which tell some sort of a story. But once you get into the main missions in this case, we're prompted to use that communicator to talk to individuals. It says answer the communicator by pressing down to report the abandoned facility to Apollo. And this is where you'll get these interactions here. I've still never met these people in person. I'm 20 plus hours into the game, getting into 25 hours. I've never met any of these NPCs. I've only ever talked to them via holographs, either on a planet's surface or here. And this is part of the main storyline. And then there's also all the missions and things that you can get from the anomaly or from the space stations, which lead you to some form of, whether it's a fetch quest or a kill quest or some sort of investigation. I've seen things where you're supposed to craft items and deliver them. I got no useful data, is what I'm going to tell this guy. He says it doesn't matter, we have what we need. He counted signal flares when the Sentinels began to appear. They moved from monolith to monolith, which means we're on the right track, and now I need to examine the monolith structures because they're linked. It's going to attune my scanner to the energy signals, and we're going to go hunt them down. And then he'll talk to me once I've finished up with that. So that's going to give me a waypoint to travel to another place. In this case, it wants me to go to the anomaly. So we can actually summon the anomaly. I think we have to get out a little bit further. So we're still in the planetary gravity well. There we go. In this case, the journal is telling me to go talk to this NPC. And this is where, like, when you're coming to the ship stations and stuff, one of the things I found very interesting about the space station NPCs anyway, is when you first start the game, you have a language barrier and you can't really understand anything that you're saying, or that they're saying. But then as you get deeper into the game, you start to learn languages skills, you start to learn words, and those words can help lead you to having greater conversations with other NPCs as you get deeper into the game. So the exploration of storytelling here is not only just tied to going from one location to another and performing quests, but also being able to find the language snippets. Let's see if these guys do it, because I haven't talked to anybody on the anomaly. These ones actually, at least that guy appears to be speaking something I understand completely. So it may only be on the space stations when we come across. I don't see anybody here that per se has any language issues. But if you do, they'll have, yeah, these guys I can still talk to. I think that's probably generally because it's speaking, we'll give him the data. This is on the anomaly, so I'm assuming the reason it works like that on the anomaly is because this is a place where everyone goes to. And it's kind of, I guess it's just assumed that everyone is going to speak all the languages. But here we see a traditional quest chain where we have, an NPC that we get to go talk to. And they're going to have a follow-up quest for us based on the information we've had. So there is an RPG element to this, which that kind of surprised me because I remember everything I read about No Man's Sky leading up to me deciding to play it, including my very first little playthrough a few years ago when I initially tried it out. I didn't see any like storyline quest narrative stuff. So this has been a pleasant surprise for me to come in here and see storylines that we can actually engage with. Now, of course, it's not mocapped, it's not voice captured. It's something where it's very rudimentary in form, but there is, generally speaking, I would say it's been an interesting main storyline so far. The missions and stuff are generally the same sort of repetitive crap I'll find in any game that you play, where it's like fetch this, deliver this, etc., in exchange for credits and faction. That kind of stuff I'm not a big fan of. I'm not a big fan of that in any game, so I'm not picking on No Man's Sky when I say that. It's just one of those things where I very much feel rewarded by motion capture and voiceovers and someone actually doing some form of motion or performance capture to bring the characters to life and to immerse me in the story. I'm a big fan of feeling like I'm in the story, like I'm in the movie, the film, and having those kind of cinematic storytelling moments is far superior to me than this. But at the very least, it has this. I didn't know that it had this. So I've been very happy with this. It's been like a nice additional layer to the game because I thought I was just going to come in and only do base building and like crafting survival, but there's actually a storyline here, and this has been uncovering who I am as a character in the game, who this entity is. There's some weirdness going on here with like iterations and kind of like the Starborn from um, Starfield. Yeah, one pneumonal says you're basically trying to figure out the meaning of your existence in a game using environmental storytelling, which is, we've seen this done. Enshrouded um, does it. Conan Exiles does it. It is retro. Yeah, that'd be a good way to explain it. It's definitely kind of an older way of doing things as opposed to just telling you through the cinematic narrative, which is fine. But I've been generally surprised that it's here, having fun doing it, and it's been, there are some aspects of it that kind of feel a little tropey and a little, I would say, and I say this with the caveat that I'm someone who has over 20 million words published, so I've made a living with words for many, many, many years. Some of the writing here feels a little mid, um, but the strength of this game is not because it's a storytelling RPG. The strength of this game is the exploration, base building, etc. Right, Brett? It's not my preferred method either, but I am happy that it exists, and it does add an underlying element of, well, why do certain things exist the way they, like, why are the Sentinels here? What are they doing, and why are they the way they are? Like, this story has been teaching me that, which has been very, very interesting. So, um, I'm intrigued by the story. It's not something I do every single day that I play No Man's Sky, but it's definitely something that has me interested enough that every couple of days, like today, I'm hopping in and doing story for a little bit during the live stream, um, and I'm happy to do so. But it's not strong enough that it pulls me in every single time and says we must complete the storyline, otherwise I don't feel like I'm progressing through the game. Like, there's so many things to do here. It's like, I think I want to go work, like yesterday was, let's upgrade my ship and get the aquatic landing gear, and let's go get all the hyperdrive gear. Let's search for a new planet, that kind of stuff. As today we're pursuing the story a little bit more to find out more about the background of the Sentinels and etc. So, food for thought. This will be pulled out for its own video, so if you're watching the stream, cool. If you're watching this after the fact, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Daily streams here on Twitch, 11 a.m. Central Time normally.